Jake Morrison floated near the observation window of Luna Station, watching Earth slowly turn below him. The blue planet looked peaceful from up here, but Jake knew better. His fingers tapped against the cold glass as he counted the stars, a habit he had developed during his 5 years as station commander. "Commander, we have something on long-range sensors," called out Lisa Chen from her post at the communications desk. Her voice was calm, but Jake heard the slight tension underneath. Jake pushed off from the window and floated toward the command center. The artificial gravity was turned off during night shift to save power, something the crew had gotten used to over time. He grabbed a handhold and pulled himself to Lisa's station. "Show me," he said. Lisa's fingers moved across her control panel. The main screen lit up with sensor data. Jake's stomach tightened as he recognized the energy signatures. Zephyrian warships, dozens of them. "How far out?" Jake asked. 3 days at their current speed," Lisa replied. "Same approach vector as last time." Jake closed his eyes for a moment. This would be the third time in 2 years. The first attack had caught Earth by surprise. The aliens had destroyed the Mars mining colonies before anyone knew what was happening. Earth's hastily assembled defense fleet had barely managed to drive them away. The second attack came 6 months later. Earth was better prepared, but the cost was high. Thousands of soldiers died defending the orbital platforms. The Zephyrians retreated again, but everyone knew they would return. And now, they were back. "Alert Earth Command," Jake ordered. "Priority 1 transmission." While Lisa worked, Jake moved to his command chair and activated the station's defense systems. Luna Station wasn't just an observation post. It housed Earth's most advanced early warning systems and controlled a network of defensive satellites. The screen flickered, and General Paul Harrison's face appeared. The old soldier looked tired, his gray hair messy as if he had been awakened from sleep. "Morrison," the general said, "tell me you have good news." "They're back, sir. Zephyrian fleet incoming, bigger than last time." Harrison's jaw tightened. "How many ships?" "Sensors count 47 vessels. Heavy cruisers mostly, but there's something else. A ship we haven't seen before, much larger than the others." "A command vessel," Harrison muttered. "They're serious this time. How long?" 3 days, sir." Harrison nodded slowly. "I'll wake the president. Prepare your station for combat operations." "And Morrison?" "Sir?" "Good work spotting them early. Those extra hours might make all the difference." The connection ended. Jake turned to his crew, who had all floated to their stations during the conversation. 25 men and women, the best Earth had to offer. They looked to him for leadership, for hope. "You all heard," Jake said. "We knew this day would come. Run full diagnostics on all systems. I want every sensor, every weapon, every defensive measure at 100%. Lisa, send alerts to all orbital platforms. Tim, wake up the fighter pilots. Everyone else, you know your jobs." The crew moved with practiced efficiency. Jake watched them work, proud of their dedication. These people had volunteered to live on the moon, far from family and friends, to stand guard over Earth. They were humanity's first line of defense. 2 hours later, Jake stood in the briefing room with his senior staff. The holographic display showed the approaching alien fleet in red, Earth's defenses in blue. The difference in numbers was stark. "They've learned from our previous encounters," said Danny Brooks, the station's tactical officer. "Look at their formation. They're spacing their ships to avoid concentrated fire from our platforms." "What about the big one?" asked Sarah Kim, the weapons specialist. "Any idea what it is?" Danny shook his head. "Nothing in our database matches it. Could be a carrier, could be some kind of command ship, or what?" Jake prompted. "Or it could be a planet killer," Danny said quietly. "The Zephyrians have conquered 12 worlds that we know of. They might have decided Earth is too much trouble to occupy." The room fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. If the Zephyrians had brought a weapon capable of destroying Earth, then this wasn't about conquest anymore. It was about extermination. "We need more information," Jake decided. "Lisa, try to establish communication with them. Maybe they'll talk this time. They've never responded before, Lisa pointed out. Try anyway. Use every frequency, every language in our database. If they're here to destroy Earth, maybe they'll at least tell us why. As the crew dispersed to their duties, Jake's personal communicator buzzed. He looked at the ID and saw it was from Ambassador Sandra Wells, Earth's chief diplomat. Commander Morrison. Her voice was strained. I need to speak with you privately. It's about the Zephyrians. Jake found an empty office and sealed the door. I'm here, Ambassador. Jake, I'm about to tell you something classified at the highest level. 2 months ago, we captured a Zephyrian. One of their scouts crashed in Siberia. The pilot survived. Jake straightened. You interrogated it? We tried to communicate, Sandra corrected. What it told us, and Jake, the Zephyrians aren't just conquerors, they're harvesters. They believe Earth is marked. Marked for what? They call it the cleansing. Apparently, they think our planet holds something dangerous, something that needs to be destroyed before it awakens. Jake felt cold. What kind of danger could Earth pose to them? We can barely defend ourselves. The prisoner wouldn't say. But Jake, it was terrified. Not of us, but of something else. Something about Earth itself. After the call ended, Jake floated in the dark office thinking. Earth wasn't special. It was just another planet, home to a young species still taking its first steps into space. What could possibly frighten a race that had conquered dozens of worlds? His communicator buzzed again. Commander, you need to see this, Lisa's voice said. Jake returned to the command center. On the main screen, the Zephyrian fleet had changed course slightly. They were no longer heading directly for Earth. They're heading here, Lisa said. To Luna Station. They want to take out our early warning system first, Danny suggested. Jake studied the display. Something didn't feel right. The Zephyrians had never targeted Luna Station before. They had always gone straight for Earth. No, Jake said slowly. They want something here. Something on the moon. Sir? Lisa looked confused. Jake remembered Sandra's words. The Zephyrians thought Earth held something dangerous. But what if they were wrong? What if the danger wasn't on Earth at all? Send a message to Earth Command, Jake ordered. Tell them the enemy's primary target might not be Earth, and get me everything we have on lunar anomalies. Old mining reports, geological surveys, anything unusual ever found on the moon. As his crew worked, Jake returned to the observation window. Earth still turned peacefully below, unaware that in 3 days, everything might change. The Zephyrians were coming not just to conquer but to destroy something they feared. Jake just wished he knew what it was. In the distance, stars twinkled in the void. Somewhere among them, the alien fleet approached, carrying 47 ships and one terrible purpose. Luna Station stood alone in their path, humanity's first and possibly last line of defense. The countdown had begun. Deep beneath the Antarctic ice, Dr. Amy Foster walked down a long white corridor. Her footsteps echoed off the metal walls. Security cameras tracked her movement at every corner. This facility had no official name, just a number. Site 7. Most people on Earth didn't know it existed. Amy stopped at a heavy steel door. She placed her hand on the scanner and spoke her clearance code. The door opened with a soft hiss. Inside, 2 armed guards stood watch over their prisoner. The Zephyrian sat in a specially designed chair, its 4 arms restrained by energy shackles. The alien stood about 7 feet tall with pale blue skin and 4 dark eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on its face. It had been their guest for 2 months now, ever since its scout ship crashed in Siberia. Leave us, Amy told the guards. They hesitated, but her security clearance outranked everyone except the facility director. The guards left and Amy sat across from the alien. Hello again, she said. I'm Dr. Foster. Do you remember me? The Zephyrian's 4 eyes focused on her. When it spoke, the translator collar around its neck converted the clicking sounds into English. You are the one who asks questions. Always questions. Your fleet is approaching Earth again, Amy said. 47 ships this time. Why do you keep attacking us? The alien's thin lips curved in what might have been a smile. Not attacking. Preventing. Preventing what? The Zephyrian leaned forward as much as its restraints allowed. You truly don't know? Your species lives on this world and knows nothing of what lies beneath? Amy kept her face calm, but her heart beat faster. Tell me. We have records, the alien said. Ancient warnings passed down through generations, about the sleeping ones, the first warriors, the ones who nearly broke the galaxy. I don't understand, Amy said. Earth is young. Humans only developed spaceflight recently. We're no threat to anyone. The Zephyrian made a sound that the translator interpreted as laughter. Humans? We care nothing for humans. You are, what is your word? Caretakers, guards. Perhaps you don't even know what you guard. Amy pulled out a tablet and showed the alien an image. It was a photograph from the moon, showing strange symbols carved into rock deep inside a crater. We found these last month. Do you recognize them? The Zephyrian's four eyes widened. Its blue skin turned almost white. Where? Where did you find these? On our moon. During a mining survey. What do they mean? They are warnings, the alien whispered. Seals, locks. Your moon is not natural. It is a prison. Amy felt cold. She had suspected something like this when the symbols were first discovered, but hearing it confirmed sent chills down her spine. A prison for what? She asked. For them. The ones who came before. The ones who must never wake. The Zephyrian struggled against its restraints. You must destroy those symbols, destroy the moon itself if necessary. If the seals break, if they... Wake. Who are they? The alien slumped back in its chair. In our language we call them the Void Hunters, but in the old texts, in the warnings carved on dead worlds across the galaxy, they have another name. They called themselves Terrans. Amy's tablet slipped from her fingers. It clattered on the floor, the sound sharp in the quiet room. She knew that name. Every human who worked on classified archaeological projects knew that name. That's impossible, she said. Terrans are a myth, a legend. Myths don't leave burned worlds in their wake, the Zephyrian said. Legends don't force entire civilizations to flee to other galaxies. We have seen the dead systems, the shattered planets. We know what Terrans are capable of. Amy picked up her tablet with shaking hands. She pulled up another file, one marked with the highest security classification. Images filled the screen. Archaeological sites on Earth that made no sense. Structures that predated human civilization by millions of years. Technology found in deep caves that shouldn't exist. These are from Earth, she said, showing the images to the alien. We've found artifacts like these all over the planet. Hidden, buried, as if someone wanted them forgotten. The Zephyrian studied the images. Yes, these match the warnings. The Terrans didn't die. They hid. They changed themselves, suppressed their nature. And you humans. What about us? You are them, the alien said simply. Humans are. Terrans changed, weakened, but still the same species that once terrified the galaxy. Amy stood up so fast her chair fell over. That's insane. Humans evolved on Earth. We have fossil records, DNA evidence, created evidence. Clever lies. The Terrans were masters of technology beyond our understanding, changing their own genetics, suppressing their abilities, creating false history, simple tasks for them. Amy paced the small room. Everything she thought she knew about human history, about Earth itself, suddenly felt uncertain. Why would they do that? Why hide? Guilt, perhaps, or wisdom. They had become too powerful, too dangerous. Maybe they chose to sleep rather than destroy. The Zephyrian's four eyes followed her movement. But the seals are weakening. We've detected energy signatures from your world. Ancient systems activating. The prison is failing. So you attack us to prevent this awakening? We attack to save the galaxy. If the Terrans wake, if humans remember what they truly are, nothing will stop them. They will consume worlds again, break stars, hunt civilizations for sport. Amy stopped pacing. She thought about the mysterious structures on Earth. Stonehenge, the pyramids, Easter Island, sites that archaeologists had never fully explained. What if they weren't monuments? What if they were something else entirely? "You're afraid of us," she said quietly. "We are terrified," the Zephyrian admitted. "Every spacefaring race knows the stories. Some worship the Terrans as gods of destruction. Others, like us, know they must never return." Amy walked to the wall and pressed an intercom button. "Director Martinez, please come to Interrogation Room 3 immediately." While they waited, Amy studied the alien. It seemed smaller now, fragile. The mighty conqueror reduced to a frightened prisoner, not by bars or energy fields, but by ancient fear. The door opened. Director Robert Martinez entered, a short man with graying hair and sharp eyes. "Dr. Foster? What's so urgent?" Amy handed him her tablet. "Read this. Our guest has been very informative." Martinez scrolled through the transcript of her conversation with the Zephyrian. His face grew paler with each line. When he finished, he looked at the alien, then back at Amy. "Is this accurate?" he asked. The Zephyrian spoke directly to Martinez. "Your moon holds the primary suppression field generator. The symbols your people found are part of the control system. If they are damaged, if the field fails, every human on Earth will begin to change. The false genetics will collapse. The sleeping memories will wake." Martinez set down the tablet. "How long would this transformation take?" "Hours, perhaps less. The Terrans designed the suppression to be reversible. They wanted the option to wake themselves if needed." Amy felt sick. 7 billion humans all changing at once. "Not changing," the Zephyrian corrected. "Remembering. Becoming what they always were beneath the false flesh." Martinez walked to the door. "Double the guard on our guest. No one speaks to it without my authorization." He turned to Amy. "Come, with me. We need to contact the president." As they left the interrogation room, Amy looked back at the Zephyrian. It sat quietly in its restraints, 4 eyes staring at nothing. "Doctor," it called out as the door began to close. "When your people wake, when they remember, tell them the Zephyrians meant no offense. We were only afraid." The door sealed shut with a soft click. Amy and Martinez walked quickly down the corridor, their footsteps sharp in the silence. Above them, through miles of ice and across the vast distance of space, the Zephyrian fleet continued its approach. 3 days. That's all the time Earth had to decide its fate. To remain sleeping, or to wake and show the galaxy the true face of humanity. Amy wondered which choice terrified her more. The White House Situation Room buzzed with tense energy. President Maria Rodriguez sat at the head of the long table, her face calm despite the weight of what she had just learned. Around her sat the most powerful people in the world: military leaders, scientists, and heads of intelligence agencies. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," Maria said, looking at the classified files spread before her. "We're not human. We're actually an ancient warrior race that conquered half the galaxy millions of years ago." Dr. Carl Mitchell, the government's lead xenobiologist, nodded. "The evidence is overwhelming, Madam President. The archaeological sites we've kept secret, the unexplained artifacts, the genetic anomalies in human DNA, it all points to artificial modification." "And Earth isn't our home planet?" Maria continued. "No, ma'am. According to these files, Earth was chosen specifically because its unique properties could suppress our true nature. The magnetic field, the mineral composition, even the moon's gravitational effect, it all works together to keep us dormant." Admiral Susan Black leaned forward. "The sites we've been protecting, Stonehenge, the pyramids, Easter Island, they're not ancient monuments. They're part of a massive suppression network our ancestors built." Maria stood and walked to the wall screen. It displayed a map of Earth with glowing points marking each known suppression site. Lines connected them in a complex pattern that covered the globe. "How long have we known about this?" she asked. The Director of Central Intelligence, John Waters, cleared his throat. The first suspicions arose in 1947 with the Roswell incident. It wasn't an alien crash. It was an automated Terran probe checking on the suppression field. Since then, we've gathered pieces of the truth, but the full picture only became clear recently. When we captured the Zephyrian, Maria concluded. Yes, ma'am. The alien's testimony confirmed our worst fears. Maria turned back to the table. And now the Zephyrians want to destroy the suppression field? No, Admiral Black corrected. They want to destroy Earth entirely. They're terrified that if the field fails, we'll revert to what we once were. The president sat back down. What exactly were we? What are these Terrans capable of? Dr. Mitchell pulled up another file. Ancient star charts appeared on the screen, showing vast regions of space marked in red. Based on recovered records, the Terran Empire controlled approximately 60% of our galaxy. They possessed technology we can barely comprehend. Matter manipulation, dimensional travel, weapons that could destroy stars. But more than technology, he continued, Terrans themselves were different. Enhanced strength, telepathic abilities, extended lifespans measuring in millennia. They were practically gods compared to other species. And they were cruel, Waters added. The records speak of entire civilizations enslaved, worlds stripped bare, species hunted to extinction for sport. The Terrans were the monsters that other monsters feared. Maria felt the weight of history pressing down on her. Why did they stop? Why come to Earth and suppress themselves? We don't know for certain, Mitchell admitted. The records fragment around that time. Some sources suggest a civil war. Others mention something called the Great Shame, possibly guilt over their actions. Maybe they simply grew tired of conquest. General Frank Torres, head of the Joint Chiefs, spoke up. Madam President, we need to focus on the immediate threat. The Zephyrian fleet arrives in 2 days. We have to decide. Do we fight them with what we have, or do we wake up? Maria finished. The room fell silent. Everyone understood the magnitude of that choice. To remain human and possibly face extinction, or to become something else entirely and save Earth. Show me the suppression field data, Maria ordered. The screen changed to display a three-dimensional model of Earth and the Moon. Energy lines flowed between them, creating a complex web of forces. The Moon is the key, Dr. Mitchell explained. It's not a natural satellite, it's the primary generator for the suppression field. The Earth-based sites are secondary nodes, but they all connect back to lunar control systems. The symbols, Jake. Morrison's team found? Control interfaces. If they're damaged or activated incorrectly, the entire system could fail. Maria studied the display. Can we control it? Turn it off partially or in specific areas? Mitchell hesitated. Theoretically, yes, but it's never been tested. We don't know what would happen if we tried to wake only some humans, or limit the transformation. There's another issue, Waters interjected. Other governments know pieces of this, Russia, China, the EU. They all have classified research on the suppression sites. If we act unilaterally, it could trigger a panic. Maria made her decision. Get me the UN Security Council on secure channels, and connect me to Luna Station. I want to speak with Commander Morrison. 20 minutes later, faces filled the wall screen. The leaders of Earth's major nations looked confused and worried. Maria had used emergency protocols to call this meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, she began, I'm about to share information that will challenge everything we believe about ourselves and our world. She gave them the truth, all of it. The reactions ranged from disbelief to horror to grim acceptance. When she finished, the room was silent for long moments. Finally, President Chen of China spoke. If this is true, we face an impossible choice. Die as humans or live as monsters. Not monsters, Maria corrected. Our ancestors, who we really are beneath this facade. The Russian leader, President Volkov, leaned forward. Can we trust that we won't become like the old Terrans? Won't we just continue their legacy of destruction? I don't know, Maria admitted. But I know this. We've lived as humans for thousands of years. We've built civilizations based on cooperation, not conquest. Maybe that will make a difference. Or maybe the suppression is all that keeps us civilized, the British Prime Minister countered. Maria turned to the separate screen showing Jake Morrison's face. The Luna Station commander had been listening to everything. Commander Morrison, the Zephyrian fleet is heading for your position. They seem to think the lunar systems are the key. What's your assessment? Jake's expression was grim. They're right, Madam President. If they destroy the moon, the suppression field fails completely. Every human on Earth transforms instantly. Can you defend the lunar systems? Not against a fleet that size. Luna Station wasn't built for major combat. We can slow them down, maybe buy you a few extra hours, but that's all. Maria looked around the virtual room at the world's leaders. Then we have three choices. We can try to negotiate with the Zephyrians, though they've never responded before. We can fight them with conventional weapons and probably lose. Or we can deactivate the suppression field ourselves, on our terms. You mean wake up, President, Chen said softly. Yes. If we're going to transform anyway when they destroy the moon, we might as well control how it happens. Arguments erupted. Some leaders demanded more time. Others questioned the evidence. A few suggested partial measures. Maria let them debate for several minutes before raising her hand for silence. The decision has to be unanimous, she said. Whatever we choose as a species, as humans or as Terrans. She activated another screen showing a countdown timer. We have 47 hours until the Zephyrian fleet reaches lunar orbit. I suggest we use that time wisely. One by one, the world leaders signed off to consult with their governments. Maria dismissed most of her staff, keeping only her closest advisors. Carl, she said to Dr. Mitchell, I want you to work with the team at Site 7. Figure out if we can control the awakening process. Start with volunteers, military personnel who understand the risks. Susan, she turned to Admiral Black, prepare our defenses as if we're staying human. I want every available ship, every weapon, ready to protect Earth. As her staff filed out, Maria stood alone at the window, looking up at the night sky. Somewhere out there, an alien fleet raced toward Earth, driven by ancient fear. And somewhere, inside every human on the planet, an older identity waited to wake. She touched the glass, wondering if her hand would look the same tomorrow, if any of them would be the same. The countdown continued. 46 hours, 45. Time was running out for humanity, or perhaps time was running out for the lie that they were human at all. The Zephyrian fleet spread across space like a dark cloud. Admiral Crick stood on the bridge of his command ship, watching the blue planet grow larger on the viewing screen. His 4 eyes narrowed as he studied the defensive positions around Earth. Pitiful, he muttered. They still think their primitive weapons can stop us. His second-in-command approached. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from Earth. Multiple frequencies. Ignore it, Crix ordered. We've wasted enough time with their attempts at communication. Sir, this is different. They're not asking for negotiations. They're warning us. Crix turned sharply. Warning us? Show me. The main screen flickered. A human face appeared, not a politician or diplomat, but a military commander. Jake Morrison, according to the identification data. The human's eyes seemed different somehow, as if a light burned behind them. This is Earth's final warning, Jake said, his voice carrying across every frequency, in every known language across the galaxy. We have lived in peace for millennia, suppressing our true nature, choosing coexistence over conquest. You have attacked us 3 times. There will not be a 4th. Crix felt something cold crawl up his spine. The human's voice carried undertones that made his ancient instincts scream danger. On the screen, Jake continued. We know why you fear us. We know what you think we are. You're right. Behind Jake, monitors showed activity across Earth. The suppression, sites, Stonehenge, the pyramids, Easter Island, all began to glow with an inner light. Massive stones that had stood still for thousands of years slowly lifted into the air. We are deactivating the suppression field, Jake announced. Not fully. Just enough to show you what 1% of our true power looks like. Crix grabbed his second-in-command. How long until we reach the moon? 6 hours, Admiral. Not fast enough. All ships, maximum speed. Destroy that moon now. But even as his fleet surged forward, Crix watched the monitors with growing horror. The energy readings from Earth spiked beyond anything their sensors could properly measure. On Luna Station, Jake Morrison felt the change begin. It started as warmth in his chest spreading outward through his body. His vision sharpened, colors becoming more vivid. The thoughts of his crew brushed against his mind like whispers. Commander? Lisa Chen's voice sounded different. Her eyes glowed with the same inner light as his own. I feel it too, Jake said. The suppression field had dropped to 99%. Just 1% of their true nature showing through, and already the difference was staggering. He looked at his hands. They looked the same, but he could feel the potential within them. The ability to manipulate matter, to bend reality to his will. Knowledge flooded his mind, not new information, but memories, techniques, skills his ancestors had used to build an empire across the stars. Sir, the Zephyrians are accelerating, Danny Brooks reported. His movements had become fluid, precise. The tactical display updated in real time as his mind interfaced directly with the station's systems. Jake nodded. Let them come. It's time they understood their mistake. On Earth, the change rippled across the planet like a wave. In military bases, soldiers found themselves moving with impossible speed and coordination. Scientists suddenly understood equations that had puzzled them for years. In hospitals, doctors discovered they could sense illnesses with a touch, but it was controlled, careful. The world leaders had agreed to a partial awakening, just enough to defend Earth without losing their humanity completely. Dr. Amy Foster stood in the Antarctic facility, watching her colleagues transform. Their eyes brightened. Their movements became graceful and precise. The Zephyrian prisoner backed against the wall in terror. What are you? It whispered. Amy's voice carried harmonics that seemed to bend reality around her. We are the children of the Terran Empire, the Void Hunters, the Reality Shapers, the Galaxy Enders. We chose peace. You chose war. In space, Earth's battered fleet suddenly moved with impossible coordination. Ships that should have been scrap metal maneuvered like dancers. Weapons that had been failing now fired with surgical precision. Admiral Susan Black stood on the bridge of Earth's flagship, her mind linked with every ship in the fleet. She could feel the crews, their thoughts synchronized, their actions perfectly coordinated. They were no longer separate individuals, but parts of a greater whole. Zephyrian fleet in range, her tactical officer reported unnecessarily. She could see them through the ship's sensors as clearly as her own eyes. Hold position, she commanded, her voice reaching every human ship simultaneously. Let them make the first move. The Zephyrians opened fire. Energy beams and plasma bolts filled space in a deadly light show. But the human ships moved like ghosts, sliding between the attacks with casual ease. Shield systems that had barely functioned before now glowed with power, deflecting hits that should have been devastating. On Luna Station, Jake watched the battle with enhanced senses. He could feel the fear radiating from the Zephyrian fleet, taste their confusion as their certain victory turned into something else. Commander, Lisa said, I can reach their systems, their ship computers, their navigation, even their weapons. I can touch them all. Jake nodded. Do it. Show them what 1% looks like. Lisa closed her eyes. Across the Zephyrian fleet, systems began to fail. Not destroyed, just turned off. Weapons powered down. Engines stuttered. Shields flickered and died. Admiral Crix watched his tactical display in horror as ship after ship reported system failures. No damage. No attacks their sensors could detect. The humans were simply reaching out with their minds and switching off technology, like turning out lights. Impossible, he breathed. The suppression field is still at 99%. This can't be their true power. His science officer looked up with all four eyes wide. Admiral, if this is 1%. I know. Crix felt true fear for the first time in his long life. Signal all ships, full retreat. But Jake Morrison was already there, his mind touching the Zephyrian Admiral's thoughts as easily as breathing. "Too late for retreat, Admiral. You wanted to see our true face. Look carefully." Through the mental link, Jake shared a vision. Not a threat or a weapon, but a memory. The Terran Empire at its height. Worlds shaped like art. Stars moved to create perfect constellations. Civilizations raised from primitive to spacefaring in mere decades just for the joy of watching them grow. And the wars. Planets cracked like eggs. Species erased from existence. The Terrans had been gods of creation and destruction both. "This is what we were," Jake's mental voice continued. "This is what we chose to forget. We buried our power, locked away our memories, became human because we were tired of being monsters." Crix felt tears running down his face. "Why show me this?" "Because you need to understand. We don't want to wake fully. We like being human. We like being part of the galactic community instead of ruling it. But if you force us to choose between extinction and awakening, we'll leave," Crix said quickly. "We'll mark Earth as forbidden. No one will come here again." Jake's presence withdrew from the alien's mind. "See that they don't. We've worked very hard to sleep peacefully. Don't make us wake up." The Zephyrian fleet turned and ran. They jumped to hyperspace as soon as their systems came back online, fleeing not from weapons or ships but from a glimpse of what humanity used to be. On Luna Station, Jake felt the suppression field strengthen again. The warmth faded from his chest. The voices of his crew dimmed in his mind. Their eyes lost their glow, becoming normal human eyes once more. "Did we do the right thing?" Lisa asked, looking at her normal hands with something like regret. Jake watched the stars where the Zephyrian fleet had vanished. "We protected Earth, we stayed human, that's all that matters." But deep inside, in a place he didn't want to acknowledge, he remembered the feeling of power, the knowledge, the abilities that had felt as natural as breathing. They had shown the galaxy just a glimpse of their true face. Jake hoped it would be enough to keep the peace, because he wasn't sure what would happen if they had to wake up completely. The change had been subtle at first. Across Earth, humans felt it like a fog lifting from their minds. Soldiers found themselves moving faster, thinking clearer. In laboratories, scientists understood equations that had puzzled them for years. In hospitals, doctors sensed illnesses with just a touch. The partial awakening lasted only 20 minutes, but it changed everything. Dr. Amy Foster stood in her lab at Site 7, watching data streams from around the world. Even with the suppression, field back at full strength, something had shifted. Humans everywhere reported feeling different, more aware, more capable. "It's like we opened a door," she told Director Martinez. "Even though we closed it again, we remember what we saw on the other side." Martinez nodded grimly. "The question is, can we forget again?" In Moscow, President Volkov met with his top scientists. They showed him brain scans taken during the partial awakening. Neural pathways had activated that shouldn't exist. Genetic markers had appeared, then vanished, leaving traces behind. "We're still human," the lead scientist assured him. "But we're more human. As if we've unlocked potential that was always there." Similar meetings happened in Beijing, London, Washington. World leaders struggled to understand what had changed. Their people were still human, but humanity itself seemed different. Now on Luna Station, Jake Morrison wrote his report. His hands moved across the keyboard with new precision. His thoughts organized themselves with clarity he'd never experienced before. "The Zephyrians kept their word," he wrote. "Long-range sensors show their fleet has left our sector entirely. They've also begun transmitting warnings to other species. The message is simple: Earth is off limits." He paused, reading back what he'd written. Even his writing had improved, clearer, more elegant. The awakening had left its mark on all of them. Lisa Chen entered the command center. "Sir, we're receiving multiple signals, not just from the Zephyrians. Other civilizations are responding to what happened." Jake moved to the communication station. The screens filled with messages in dozens of languages. Some were fearful, others curious. Many asked the same question: were humans truly the legendary Terrans? How should we respond? Lisa asked. Jake thought carefully. Tell them the truth. We are the descendants of the Terran Empire, but we chose a different path. We chose peace. The days that followed brought profound changes to Earth. In New York, the United Nations held emergency sessions. Alien civilizations that had never acknowledged Earth before now requested diplomatic relations. Some offered alliances. Others simply wanted assurance that Earth would remain peaceful. Ambassador Sandra Wells found herself at the center of a diplomatic revolution. Species that had ignored humanity for decades now treated Earth with respect and healthy fear. They're not afraid of what we are, she explained to President Rodriguez. They're afraid of what we were and what we might become again. Maria nodded. Can we guarantee we won't? The suppression field works, but we've proven we can control it. What if someone decides to use that control? It was the question everyone avoided. Now that humans knew the truth about themselves, could they resist the temptation of power? In a small town in Kansas, a farmer named Bill Davis experienced the answer firsthand. During the awakening, he'd felt strength beyond imagination. He could have lifted his tractor with one hand, commanded the weather, reshaped the very earth. But he'd chosen not to. He'd felt the power and set it aside, returning to his simple life. Across Earth, billions had made the same choice. We're still human, he told his wife that evening. Whatever we were before, we're human now. That's what matters. The sentiment spread. Yes, humans were Terrans. Yes, they possessed terrifying potential. But they'd lived as humans for millennia. They'd built their culture, their values, their entire identity around being human. That wouldn't change overnight. 3 months after the confrontation, Earth's leaders met again. This time they gathered in person at a secure facility in Switzerland. The topic, what to do with their newfound knowledge. We can't unknow what we are, President Chen stated. But we can choose what we do with that knowledge. Agreed, said the German Chancellor. I propose we formalize what we've already done. Create a treaty binding all nations. The suppression field remains active. The awakening was a one-time event for defense only. President Rodriguez added, we should also establish oversight. An international committee to monitor the suppression sites, ensure they're protected. One by one, the leaders agreed. They drafted the Treaty of Human Limitation, a document unlike any in history. Nations pledging to voluntarily limit their own species' potential for the greater good. But the universe had changed too. In the depths of space, monitoring stations from 1,000 civilizations watched Earth. What they saw surprised them. The legendary Terrans, the galaxy's greatest conquerors, had looked at ultimate power and chosen to remain weak. On a distant world, the Zephyrian High Council reviewed Admiral Crix's report. The images of Earth's partial awakening played on their screens. Ships moving like dancers. Humans touching minds across space, matter bending to their will. And this was only 1% of their power? A council member asked. Crix nodded, still shaken by the memory. 1%. They could have destroyed us utterly. Instead, they chose to return to their sleep. Perhaps they've truly changed, another member suggested. Perhaps the Terrans are gone and only humans remain. Perhaps, Crix agreed. But I've marked Earth with the ancient symbol. No ship will approach. No communication will be sent. Let them sleep peacefully. The symbol appeared in star charts across the galaxy, a simple mark that meant more than any weapon or treaty. It meant, do not disturb. Back on Earth, life continued. Children played in parks, scientists pursued their research, artists created beauty. The world looked the same as it had before, but everything had changed. Humanity knew its secret now. They were the children of empire, the heirs of conquest. But they were also the architects of their own limitation, the guardians of their own prison. In her laboratory, Amy Foster made a final entry in her journal. We are Terrans who chose to be human. We are conquerors who chose peace. We are gods who chose mortality. And in that choosing, perhaps we've become something greater than either Terran or human alone. She closed the journal and looked out her window at the starlit sky. Somewhere, out there, the galaxy watched and waited, but Earth spun on, peaceful in its self-imposed sleep. The suppression field hummed quietly, its energy flowing between the ancient sites. Stonehenge stood silent. The pyramids kept their watch. Easter. Island statues faced the sea, all connected, all working together to keep humanity human. And across the world, 7 billion people lived their lives, worked their jobs, raised their families. They were ordinary humans doing ordinary things. But now they knew that ordinary was a choice. Weakness was a decision. Peace was an act of incredible strength. The greatest empire in galactic history had conquered one final enemy, itself. And in that victory, it had found something better than power. It had found wisdom. Years passed. The memory of the awakening faded like a dream. New generations were born who knew the truth as history, not experience. But the lesson remained, coded into law, built into culture, written in the stars themselves. Earth, the planet of sleeping giants, where the galaxy's greatest warriors chose to dream of peace, and the universe, for the first time in millions of years, slept soundly too.